Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze. I am your host, Professor Jeremy Vilmur, and since it is August in Central California and it's only 74 degrees outside, my windows are open, so today may be noisier than usual, but all this shit in the air from the fires is at least dropping our temperature by 25 degrees, and I'm taking advantage. And joining us now, a man whose state is hopefully not on fire, the only Triple Crown champion winner of SMW, Arn Anderson's favorite enhancement talent, and the Kingslayer, Double B Bobby Blaze.
That's right. And just like Arn used to tell me, Professor, we're just two gentlemen discussing business, man. It's good to be back. And like I said, it's good to be king for just a day. You put that Kingslayer out there, I really dig it, man. And today I think we'll have a really fun episode lined up. Once again, here on the Bell to Bell Bobby Blaze podcast. Want to just say real quickly, thanks for all the love and support shown, for all the fans that downloaded our RIP Top 10 to Bobby Eaton. That went over really good. I thought we'd done it really classy. I watched Arn's. I watched, listened to, Tony on with Conrad.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of ours, it was really, a lot of them were done really, really classy, even though we said no one's going to do as good as we did. Everyone that I saw do some kind of a tribute to Bobby, of course, was very, very classy.
Yeah.
And for that, that just shows, again, what kind of person Bobby was. And we really appreciate the fans' participation in that. The only question we didn't get, we're going to get to today. I didn't get a lot of feedback. I'm not sure if you did. What would have happened? I know you're going to bring us up in a second, but what was the, if the Horsemen, we talked about that. If the Horsemen and Cornette the Midnight Express would have got together, and we may talk about that just really briefly, but I know we got some more important stuff to talk about than something that took place last week on our podcast.
Yeah.
So open us up there, man. We're doing some gimmicks today.
Yes, we are. So today we're going to focus on 10 gimmicks that were based on pop culture. The majority of these are movie-based characters, but there's like one or two comic books and a couple other things. So we're going to dig into that. But there are two pieces of news I wanted to open with, Bobby, if you don't mind.
Don't mind at all.
All right. First off, Billy Corgan has acquired the actual Burke Heavyweight Championship belt, which is pretty amazing because this Empower show is really looking... They're pulling out all the stops, and it looks like every woman who can fit in there from any part of wrestling is going to be part of this thing.
Yeah, it looked good, man. Looked good. Who was the tag team? One of the tag teams you were telling about earlier.
Miranda Gordy has a team. It's a six woman tag team, I guess is what you'd call it. But they're going under the name the Free Babes, the Fabulous Free Babes.
Right on, man. Good deal. And I saw where Debbie Drake, professionally known as Debbie Malenko, is coming out for this show as well. I'm really wishing her well. She had a very successful career in Japan in the 90s, and she's had a couple of matches here recently, and she's actually had an MMA fight too, I think, and it's good to see Debbie Malenko get back into the mix of professional wrestling. It's a good time for her to do so. So I wish her well, because I know her personally and remember how hard she used to train, and remember when she first got her deal in Japan. So that's cool. And I'm digging what they're doing, man, because I know a couple girls that are training right now, and I've seen a couple young girls in these shows that I've, fortunately got to go to here recently. And I like to see these women just keep on, man. They've main evented Mania, so I want to see them, good things happening, and I know you're talking NWA here, but this empowerment I think it should be good. I think it's good for business.
Well, I mean, this is kind of building off that thing that we've noticed too, because Christian Cage just won the TNA/Impact title. He's not under contract to Impact. So there's this mixture of, I'm going to use like an MCU term here, but basically it's a wider wrestling universe that it doesn't matter if you work for the NWA, Impact, AEW, New Japan. They're all working together and promoting together and using each other's talent. And, I have to think eventually it's going to begin to include smaller promotions as well. And I think it's a really exciting time to be watching because, this Empower, they're drawing people from everywhere.
Yeah. And I will say this, if you'll go back, and I couldn't tell you when it was, but the professor himself, he mentioned on his program a couple times there, I'm not saying it's getting back to the territory days the way you're talking about that, but it's like you said, it's opening up, and these companies are working together. And if they go to some of these smaller markets and they work the bigger markets for the TVs, I'm telling you, I'm starting to see. At one point, we jokingly said that, someone said pro wrestling's dead. I asked Corny about it, and we was joking and said, if not, it's on life support. But here last little bit, Jeremy, since, we're kind of fighting through this COVID thing still, but I tell you, from what I'm seeing, it's coming off life support, and it's coming back strong.
Yeah,
I think
it looks like
it's a great time to be involved in professional wrestling.
Yeah, well, this is probably the best time in 22 years.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Because you just have so many options. Even Dave Marquez. Look at how many wrestling company he's got up and running now. That doesn't mention places like GCWs and all these other promotions that are, they're small, but people are watching them all across the country.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Absolutely. The fans, I think COVID, if nothing else, maybe got a couple people say, hey, man, I'm going to get off my couch and get out and watch a show the first chance I can because I've really missed it, and maybe even drive a couple hours to see a live show, because they've missed it so much. It's kind of one of those things, you don't really know how much you love something or care for something until it's gone. Yeah. And then you realize, oh, wow, now I'm sitting here watching it. Maybe you and I, we didn't succeed very well of watching it without the fans there, but most of the fans, we're not our typical fans. We're saying our base probably was like, and I'll do without it. But a lot of other fans were like, hey, first chance I get to go back to a show, I'm going. And the fans seem to be, the professional wrestling seems to be delivering for the fans once again.
Yeah. So, well, like you were saying there, a lot of our audience, we're just as happy to go, hey, look, it's Bockwinkel versus Race in 84.
Yeah.
I'll go watch that match. Okay, Bobby, this is gonna kind of segue a little bit, but it's gonna build on what we've been talking about.
Sure.
I'm gonna read you a quote, and you're gonna try to guess who said it about what. Okay.
Okay.
All right. It wasn't the way I would have done it. It was a lot better. It was perfect.
I would say Skip from the Lords of Dogtown about skateboarding or something, probably. No. I know something that happened, and I'm just going to, I'm not going to play dumb to it. I would imagine it had something to do with story time and someone getting a huge pop, because my friend Dave Black told me to go and listen to this pop, and someone was coming out, and then my other friend Judy Ray Hendricks, she said, when this person sits down and says and goes crisscross applesauce, it's story time. So I'm just going to say this. I'm going to take a big guess that you're probably talking about CM Punk's return to professional wrestling at AEW after 7 years. Now, who can you contribute the quote to, Jeremy?
The quote was from the one and only Jim Cornette.
Oh, wow, man. Say it again. What was it? It was perfect? What was it?
It wasn't the way I would have done it. It was a lot better. It was perfect.
There you go, man.
Yeah.
And see, he doesn't necessarily shit on everything that happens, folks.
Nope. Sometimes he gets caught off guard, and he's more than happy to praise it.
I went back and watched the pop, just so you know.
Yeah, so just to kind of point out some things that we've said before on this show, when CM Punk was talking, he says he left pro wrestling when he left ROH, and now he's joining pro wrestling again. Again, singling out the fact that the WWE isn't really pro wrestling and hasn't been for a very long time.
Right. I caught that, and I like that. Now, here's the thing. I hope I hope AEW and the program they run with him holds up to that and does exactly that. Let's see some professional wrestling, That's, and actually, smartened me up again, the opening line he used, because I knew it had a reference to something because I had listened to that earlier. What was it? He said that to open up, they got to pop one.
You guys sure know how to make a boy feel like Britt Baker in Pittsburgh or something to that effect. But,
yeah. So he's of course in his hometown, Chicago. And so she's from Britt Baker being from Pittsburgh and got that huge pop. That's the whole. People are starting to get over again. The fans are coming back, and are people that are supposed to get over are starting to get over. Oh
yeah,
that's a good thing, man.
Well, a couple weeks back or a couple months back, I don't remember what it was, but it was the first AEW pay-per-view with an audience again, right? And it was suggested, somebody ripped it and put it up on YouTube, and it was suggested on my feed to go watch it, so I put it on.
Okay.
And it was chopped up a little bit, and I'm sure just to get around the censors and, the robots and stuff. But there was a thing when Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley were coming to the ring, and there was a live audience, and the song Wild Thing kicked in. And I had forgotten what it was like to hear a real song play when people come to the ring, to an ovation from the audience.
Right on.
Back in the day, the Von Erichs coming out to Stranglehold, or the Freebirds coming out to Freebird, actual songs that you would listen to, that you play. All the people that use Perfect Strangers by Deep Purple in ECW and all over the place, Just that audience reaction, actual music, and I'm not even I'm not like an AEW hater, but I'm not a regular viewer either, but it was just something about the two of them. I do like Eddie Kingston quite a bit. I do think he's
I thought he was good on NWA.
Yeah.
And one of them guys that paid his dues, what I'm saying? He'd been around a while.
Oh, he's been around
that's something I admire too. Yeah.
He's been around a while. I found out he came from Shikara at one point, which blew me away because he seems so much more real than like a Shikara wrestler,
Yeah. I didn't know that, but yeah.
Yeah, but when they hit and they came out and it was just something, the audience sound, the actual, like an actual song playing. And I was like, this is what pro wrestling's been kind of missing, obviously during the COVID period, but also just for the last 30 years when everybody was scared to death to pay trademark rights for music,
Yeah. I've done an interview with James from Wrestling Shoot Interviews from over in England. And the first hour of that is now up on YouTube. It's just WSI Wrestling Shoot Interviews. They chopped it up. He chops them up at first and puts little segments on there. And the reason I brought that up, he asked me about the music in Smoky Mountain, why I chose I Won't Back Down and this and that, which was the biggest, who got the biggest pop. And, of course, if I heard Dirty White Boy, I'd say, fuck, here comes Dirty White Boy to the ring. Or, of course, old time rock and roll. That was the most over probably because rock and roll was, they were over big time.
Yeah.
But he only asked me specifically about, Smoky Mountain on that particular thing. But I'm going to say it now because I was biting my tongue to say it on there because we was keeping it strictly for Smoky Mountain. But when Dave Black said, hey, Bobby, have you seen CM Punk's entrance to AEW and here to pop, and I was like, well, I'll get to it, I'm sure. And I wrote them, eventually did. The only thing I could think of that I wanted to say on the other interview, that of course again it was we kept it to Smoky Mountain for that pop only, but when you hear Iron Man, someone's getting their ass kicked because here comes the Road Warriors, and that's going to tie into our topic today. But that's what my mind goes back to, that Road Warrior pop. Now, I don't know if Punk got the Road Warrior pop, but it was pretty damn loud pop. And, I remember there's been a few through the years, but like you said, that's what's been missing is just when you heard a song, a real song, not something that's created to kind of emulate another song, blah, 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 and got the real fan interaction in there, and they're sincere fans, a lot of, obviously AEW, they wouldn't have been there, but also wrestling fans, so I just hope they run with this, man. I really do.
Yeah, I think they got through one note of Cult of Personality before the fucking audience just exploded. It's like all of Chicago could name that tune in one note.
Yeah, there you go. Name that tune. Well, I can name that tune of 5. Well, go ahead. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so Cornette's quote, that's pretty damn good, man. What's next?
One thing we wanted to address real quick, we're not going to spend a lot of time on these, but we got a couple things we want to go back and talk about. Apparently, the angle for the Midnights joining the Horsemen was going to be Woman was going to seduce Corny, and he was going to lose the Midnights to the Horsemen through that.
Yeah. I didn't know that. And if I did, for whatever reason, I'd forgotten. I think I sent that to you. It was Kevin Barrett. He sends us stuff from time to time, and he's the one that sent it to me, and he said he got it off the Jim Cornette podcast.
Yeah.
So, he said it was before Barry and Sid came on board. So just want to let you know about that. I thought it was pretty interesting, man.
I think Robert Silva might have tagged us both in something as well.
Okay, cool.
But
cool.
Yeah, I got it from a couple different places. But the idea was going to be that Corny was going to, and I'm using that just because we both know who we're talking about. But Jim Cornette.
Right.
Jim Cornette was going to transition to an on-screen, color commentary role.
Yes. And I do recall him talking about that a lot. They wanted him to go to color commentary more.
Yeah.
So.
Which he was great at, and just one stupid slip up, and I'm sure he'd still be doing it on NWA now, Okay, so from there, I got to go and say that a fella named Tony Botts has hit me up on Facebook a couple times. One, to correct me on a David Allen Coe comment. Apparently, and I think you've told me this too, that you heard he actually did time. The last time
I know, he did some time. I don't, just saying, myth or legend or whatever sells albums, I don't know.
Exactly, yeah. So I haven't really looked into him since the 90s, but I do know that a lot of his stuff is bullshit, and I don't know specifically which parts. I just, in my head, I assume his entire quote unquote biography is horseshit anymore. And I don't, I'm not going to look, I like a couple of songs he wrote, hell, I like a couple of songs he performed, but he's like the Rick Ross of country music,
I got you.
Yeah. He's just,
I've seen him in concert. I was a fan. And then, like I said, I got to see him in concert. I just go, I'm the same as you, it's a bio. So, if he puts it in there, he puts it in there. If it sells a few records for him, it sells a few records. From what I read, he did, but that's a good comparison there to the Rick Ross gimmick, still on the original Rick Ross, under the freeway, the freeway Ricky Ross,
Exactly,
kind of a pretty damn good comparison. I'm getting coughed up about that, actually. So
the other thing,
anyway,
the other thing Tony pointed out was apparently Jarrett Parsons is already selling a Daddy Said Sell t-shirt. So he's like, hey, sorry guys, but I got to point out a little something here. That means they have a copyright to their design. It does not mean they have a trademark to that saying. So, Bobby, I'm going to introduce our new Daddy Said Sell t-shirt available at belltobellblaze.com/Daddy Said.
That's right. If Daddy said it, you better do it, baby. Run over and get one of those heavy hitters, man.
That's it.
I'm already getting me a pin me, pay me one. I know my man Casey King got him one. I've got a Blaze Slayer shirt, King Slayer shirt on the way. I wore my Bobby Eaton shirt, beautiful Bobby Eaton shirt yesterday for the first time, and got a couple recognitions of that of someone. Oh man, and I was not around wrestling. I was around baseball yesterday, believe it or not. I went to a little Hall of Fame ceremony I had here in my hometown for some guys that were closer to my age that played back in the day, and they inducted them to this CP1, and I got some real compliments on my shirt, man, from people that obviously know who I am and know who Bobby Eaton was. So, go to the belltobellblaze.com/Daddy Said and get one of those Daddy Said Sell t-shirts,
That's right. We got a few designs coming up here. But we're coming out through different sources, but we got some stuff coming up, so check it out.
Yeah, for sure, man.
All right. So what do you say we quit screwing around and get down to the brass tacks here?
Yeah, so we're going to do a top 10 pop culture based wrestling gimmicks. Like Jeremy said, a lot of these came from movies, some television shows. Also, we kind of, there's a couple of them that came from different movies, and we kind of just limited to one gimmick per movie per se. So anyway, we've got some good ones, I think.
Yeah.
And you're talking to a guy that I wrestled a guy 6 foot. So I say guy, hold on a second. I wrestled a thing 6'6", 350 pounds, and 3,000 years old apparently, and it was a mummy. So before we go anywhere else, let's establish that I wrestled a fucking mummy. Man, you know, he had all this gimmick on, and so I wrestled him plenty of times at house shows. So Smoky Mountain Wrestling did have a mummy. We also had a Ninja Turtle in there. But it was done properly in a way that this is what certain people wanted. And, you know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And, you know, it was an easy match, but when he turned that gimmick around and he hit me over the top of the head, there was something in that arm. It was loaded, Jeremy, and I don't think it was a 3,000-year-old arm that hit me. I think it was some big young guy dressed up in a gimmick, and you know, I just was selling.
Wrapped under all those bandages, who can say for sure?
Right.
You know, that could have been a whole. That guy may not have been a mummy at all. He may not even have been Egyptian, Bobby. Matter of fact, if I remember right, he had a Greek name.
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, yeah, gimmicks. And with that said, we kind of, Memphis, you put that up there. They do all kinds of monsters and creatures there. They had a mummy at some point. I know the one I remember was when Lawler knocked on the box and they was asking what was in there, and it was Frankie. Of course, it was a Frankenstein type gimmick, you know. I know you had so they done some Universal monsters and vampires, but also they had the Kisser, and I know you wanted to speak about that for a second. So,
well, it's like twice now that we know of. Have been definite attempts to get like a Kiss character in wrestling. One was Wayne Ferris with the Kisser. Wayne Ferris, of course, is the honky tonk man. He's been through numerous gimmicks. The most popular one being that Rockabilly Elvis one. But there was also, two different people had the gimmick in WCW, but there was the Kiss Demon.
Yeah.
You know, the first guy that had it kind of backed out, and I think Dale Torborg was the second guy to get it.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, WCW again, how they fucking stayed in business doing shit like this.
To quote my main man Double A there, I'll just say this. I think they paid Kiss like $750,000 to perform that night. I think it was at the MGM to debut that demon character, and that whole episode, that segment, you know, I'll just say this. There went about 10 jobs. I mean, it's sad, but, you know, guys hanging on at the bottom of the contracts, you know, you're talking some guys that were maybe making, you know, say 75 to 100,000, maybe 125,000 a year. Well, they just spent $750, so there went a shitload of guess who's not going to be at the next TV taping kind of deal, you know. That's how they got by in spite of themselves sometimes, Jeremy. You just, you know, fortunately I stayed around a little bit longer at that point, but yeah, it wasn't going unnoticed by a lot of people that they were spending a shitload of money. It wasn't theirs. But anyway, back to business. Well, wanted to get that out of there.
You know, I remember you saying one time Arn came up to you and he's like, "Hey, Bobby, pull your trunks up. Don't get a gut. Don't give them any reason to fire you."
Yeah.
And now for some reason in my head, I still see Paul Orndorff like chasing you around, like, "Put down the chili cheese dog, Bobby. Don't eat that."
Yeah. No, we casually was in catering, man, and I was getting some tea and Arn was getting some coffee, and he just walked up and he said, "Bobby," and some people, I guess, had said no to a couple, you know, putting other people on TV, knowing that's your job, you know, or whatever. And he just basically said, "Hey, you know, Bobby, don't give him a reason to let you go," because he knew they was letting people go.
Yeah,
and I thought that was very personable and professional, and I respected it. And I was like, "Yep, you know, I appreciate that." I said, "Yes, sir." I just kept pouring my tea. I kept looking straight ahead like we wasn't even talking. I said, "Yes, sir. Thank you very much," and went about my own business, you know.
Yeah.
But
little spycraft trade there, you know.
Yeah,
tap on the nose.
But yeah, and it's also called being a professional. Like when I did speak with Paul, even one-on-one about some stuff I was doing with Vampiro and a possible pay-per-view and things, is one of those things. It's like it's just two gentlemen discussing business, and that's the way it was. And I respected that, and I think they respected that in me as well, or they wouldn't have taken the time out of their day to mention those things to me. So anyway. You want to start this top 10?
Yeah, I'm going to start with number 10 is Jason the Terrible. And this was one of Bruce Hart's creations up at Stampede Wrestling. He basically just whole cloth stole Jason from Friday the 13th.
Yeah. And I know that I think it was FMW over Japan. They had a Jason, they had a Leatherface, and they had several gimmicks over there as well.
Oh, yeah.
I think the original one that went over may have went over from Stampede, over to Japan for one of the companies. I'm not sure if it was FMW at that particular time, but eventually they did. Again, ripping off some of those gore type movies or what have you. So we're going to put that as coming in number 10, Jason the Terrible. A direct rip off from the Friday the 13th. Yeah,
they left the serial numbers in place on that one. They didn't change a thing. Bobby, what I saw about it was I wrote the guy's name down on my notes, but I didn't put it in our show notes. But the guy who was playing the character originally got injured, and so somebody else took it up. But he took it back to Puerto Rico and then Japan, and then other people have used it since. So there is a lineage.
I knew that it ended up in Japan. I had forgotten. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what I do know. I just remember this. I'd forgot the guy went to Puerto Rico. Eddie Watts worked in Calgary and Puerto Rico and Japan, and that's the other reason. I'm drawing a blank on a name myself, but I knew it ended up in Japan. Yeah.
So that's how it got around. So there is one original gimmick of Jason that has made the rounds, and that was that one. What's interesting there is the reason I put that one on the list is I was actually researching or trying to do a little research.
Carl Moffat.
That was the original one, yes.
Yeah, thank you. I knew it was Calgary-based. That's who it was, Carl.
Yeah,
that's with the K, because Eddie Watts knew him and had been to Puerto Rico and Japan with them, and that I was drawing a blank, but that's who it was. He was the original one, Jason the Terrible.
Yeah. So I came across that because I knew there was a Jason out there. I wasn't sure what his background was.
Yeah.
But I was thinking somebody else was based on Jason. And it turned out I was wrong. He was based on another guy who was kind of in an arms race with Jason, because he had the Halloween series and Friday the 13th were both trying to outdo each other with very similar, implacable, undefeatable masked characters. But number 9, Kane was originally their version of the Michael Myers, the Shape, the Boogeyman from Halloween.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you go back and you watch, I even went and pulled some early YouTube clips. You watch his mannerisms. He's moving his head the way Michael kind of moved his head in the early Halloween films. You can definitely see it, if not for the bright colors, though.
Yeah. And I'll say this, man, that Kane, he has ridden that gimmick, man. I mean, it came out, it was pure fire, and it got over. The whole storyline got over. I know it got goofy at some point, but let's ignite that out of it. In the beginning, it was really hot. The storyline was really, really hot. And, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, more deserving guy, hardworking, didn't have to speak as Kane, but obviously he could work and he had that body. And Glenn Jacobs was, perfect for that character, man.
Oh, absolutely.
And just an all-around good dude, and one of the last house shows I went to, actually, I spoke to him in the back, and that's been, I guess, going on 5 years now. I don't know, 4 or 5, but yeah, what a great guy. But man, he that character's over, and that whole storyline about being the brother and trying to burn him and kill him, and just that whole whole Undertaker. What an opponent for that too,
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Well, and see, I guess that was the genesis of the character, was that, by this point, Michael had become this, in the movies, he was like some druid cursed family annihilator. And that was the idea with Kane, was that he was the murderous brother coming after his family member, you know?
Yeah.
And, so that's what that is. Yeah. You watch those early movements and the head movements and things. He's very much like it, but I was thinking he was Jason based. So yeah, there we go. Okay. Let's go on to number 8.
Yeah. This is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
When I'm going to mention Casey again, because I asked him the question at the gym the other day, just to kind of get my mind, towards the weekend, like with our list. And Casey, he mentioned this one here, and I kind of forgotten, my mind was going like cartoonish characters type stuff. But when he mentioned Razor Ramon from Scarface, I popped. I was like, yeah, that's the one I'm going to go with, man. Because I've heard tell, and I think it's on YouTube, on a Scott Hall interview, that Vince was like, he was coming in from Puerto Rico, I guess, and Vince met him in Miami. And they come to the airport and he was in character, and I'm not sure if he's come from Miami or he was working a show in Miami, but either way, I guess Scott Hall and Vince were coming through the airport, and like no one's giving him a second look, because he just had that look, and it's like it was just like he blended in with that look at that time, Mm-hmm. So I thought that was pretty cool, man. That and that Razor Ramon character and that Tony Montana, I mean, that I watch that Scarface probably once, maybe twice a year. Sometimes I love that movie for whatever reason. I'm not a gangster. Don't have the poster in my home, nothing like that. But still, man, Razor was over.
Yeah,
and then that whole toothpick gimmick, and he was so big and strong anyway. It was just so over, man, at the time. So, yeah, of course, to my 1, 2, 3 kid got him, but nonetheless, just saying, Razor Ramon, Scarface, right. Number 8, right?
Yeah,
no 7.
Yeah, your buddy,
8.
Yeah, your buddy X-Pac is actually going to be at the Stockton Comic Con this year.
Okay.
Yeah, I just saw that go up on an ad yesterday. I don't know if I'm going this year, but if I do, and I take the time to go through his line, I'll tell him you said hello.
You better. He put me over. He'll put me over.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
Tell him who you are.
Yeah. So the Razor Ramon. Okay, so here's a funny thing. I was actually a fan of Scott Hall and Kurt Hennig when they were a tag team, right?
Yeah.
And
I got you.
Yeah, I thought Scott Hall was going to be this breakaway star, and I had him in the mold of Magnum or a Hulk Hogan or something,
Right. You told me that, yes.
Yeah. I didn't realize, now I wasn't watching wrestling real regularly up until the WCW jump. But I didn't realize that Razor Ramon, who I'd seen, but I hadn't paid a lot of attention. I didn't realize that was Scott Hall.
Oh, okay.
He didn't look the same to me in any way. And then when they jumped and they gave him his real name back, I was like, oh shit, son of a bitch, that is him.
Yeah. Well, I was in Canada, and I know Eddie, and I mentioned him, like I said, and Ron Starr. They were talking about being in Puerto Rico with Scott Hall, and I was a fan, like you said. I saw him in the old AWA with Hennig, and he gave off that Magnum TA type vibe.
Yeah. And
I knew he had to be big. I knew he had to be taller, because we're Hennig, I knew how tall he was. And I was like, this guy's got a look to him, and I kind of liked him, just as a fan. But then I heard Eddie and Ron, traveling together, the heels traveled together back and forth. When he got that Razor gimmick, they was talking about, they was really happy for him. They was putting him over. He got off that shitty island and was getting a push, and was getting this big deal in New York, and that's probably one of the few reasons, honestly, that I knew who it was early on, because we were working so much at that time. I really wasn't watching, but I knew who it was when by the time it came, up for Sean to go against him. I was obviously watching. I was told 2 weeks in advance, watch the next 2 Raws. Phyllis Lee told me that Sean had let her know. She was one of Malenko's. She was a helper. She helped a lot behind the scenes stuff down at the school. And we were still in contact that time. And she said, Sean sent word to watch the next 2 Raws if you can. And I watched them. I knew what happened at that point. But anyway, Scott Hall, or Razor Ramon, Scarface. As you put here, all the Cuban stereotypes you've never asked for. Yeah. So, man. Oh, yep. And by the way, Scarface in that movie, just a little trivia here.
Yes.
Do you know every time he looks up and he's looking at a woman, do you know who he's looking at in that movie?
No.
Okay. A lot of people think he's looking at Michelle Pfeiffer. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. She's the girlfriend of the boss that he eventually takes over, eliminates whatever.
Yeah.
And that's who he ends up marrying and all that. Every time, though, if you watch it and Tony Montana looks up from the table or looks and is looking at a girl, it's actually a sister, Gina.
Oh, okay, I've seen that as a theory.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Oh, it's for sure spot on, dude.
Yeah.
And at the end, she even says, "You want to fuck me, Tony?" You know.
Yeah.
Because he's protecting her throughout. When she starts getting hot, then she goes to the nightclub. I'm telling you, every time the character looks up at a. You think he's looking at Michelle Pfeiffer dancing. You think it's actually Gina every time, the sister.
Yeah.
And if you check it out, it's true, man. It's
that was,
and she was hot. I'm drawing a blank on her name, but she was hot that played the part. And yeah.
Well,
anyway, a little trivia.
I haven't watched that movie probably in a good 15 years, maybe even 20.
I watched it during COVID, so I don't know what exact month, but I did watch it here in the last year and a half.
Yeah. So I remember I've come across, and I haven't gone back and looked at, but I've come across all the incest subtext that is in that movie.
Yes.
Just in different things I've read. But I've never gone back and watched it just to really keep track of it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, she flat out says to him at one point, like, hey.
Yeah, at the end.
Yeah.
Mary Elizabeth Rastatamoni. How you say her last name? Mary Elizabeth.
Antonio?
Yes, that's her. That's who plays Gina. Anyway, yes, there's the, it's in there. Like I said, I've watched it twice in the last couple of years. Like I said, once during COVID, so probably in the last 10 months even. Just because actually one of my boys was like, he was like, "Dad, I watched this on Netflix." And I was like, "Yeah, I just watched it like 2 months ago. I think I'll watch it again." So I did. But you got to catch that part.
Yeah.
So,
well, see, know, when it comes to gangster films, the one I'll watch just over and over and over is Goodfellas.
Oh, mine too.
Yeah.
That's probably my go-to.
Yeah.
The Godfathers, you got to really set your day aside and say, "I'll come and watch these." The same thing I think with Casino, you got to set your day. You know, that's pretty long. But my go-to would be Goodfellas as well.
Yeah, the way Scorsese shot that, the music he used, the actors in it, also that last part where he's gacked up on coke. You feel like you're on cocaine watching those scenes. You feel like you feel paranoid. You feel
You want to see helicopters? You want to see helicopters?
Yeah.
Get in here.
Fuck.
Yeah, you're right there, man. Hey, and you know what? Speaking of that, I used to talk to Henry Hill. No shit.
Really?
He had an email account. It was Hitman something. I kid you not. I saw him on Howard Stern. He gave it out. And I kid you not, I wrote it off his website. This is early, let's see, this was about 2000-ish, 2001 maybe. I wrote the guy a letter about some horse racing questions, and whoever ran it, whether it was Henry or not, they wrote me back, and then I responded to that, and the person responded back again, because I was talking about the best value at the track. Do you play do you go with a safe bet, win, place, and shows across the board? What do you do? And of course, this person, they came back with the big money is in. You got to go for these, get in on the pick sixes. You look at the carryovers. You know what I'm saying? It was some really neat stuff about horse racing. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I can see where if you're that kind of money, I was asking just some general questions, and I was actually reading some a couple books about horse racing, betting, and this and that at the time. But yeah, I wrote them, and the dude wrote me back, man. Of course, he's dead now.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about that just the other day for whatever reason, that he actually wrote me back. In fact, I think they're coming for Henry Hill right now in the background, Jeremy.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah. I think him and Karen may be up to something running around town over there, it sounds like.
I bet she's got a gun in her panties.
Oh, God, I knew you was going to say that. Yeah, you bastard. That's the hottest scene, man. That's the hottest scene right there. Yeah. I was waiting. Thanks for the segue. That's good. Yeah. I knew you was going to put it there. Let's get off of that and go to something else, man. Now that the sirens are gone, you want to see helicopters and all that noise.
Yep.
Literally.
I'm going to jump to number 7, and there's actually the whole gaggle that goes into this, but this guy was first, and that's going to be Glacier at WCW, who was essentially just a copy and paste of Sub-Zero from the Mortal Kombat video games, and at that point I think it had already been a movie as well.
Okay, yeah. And I wrestled Glacier twice.
Yeah.
And what a good dude too. Ray Lloyd, he had worked up in North Georgia some. He was one of the few guys at the power plant that actually knew how to fucking work when he got in the ring. I don't mean that disrespectfully to anyone else that was going to the power plant, but what I'm saying is Ray had actually worked in a couple, several towns in northern Georgia area and maybe even Tennessee, Alabama, etc. But he also had been to Japan. I'm not sure which company he had went with. But so when you got in the ring with him, and of course, again, I knew my job there. And my job against Glacier, he knew, as he said, it's a pleasure being in the ring with you, Bobby. And I just called the whole match because I knew what the fuck I was doing, and that is I'm making him look good.
Yeah.
I know he can get his kicks in. I know he can get his finish in. And he knows that when I go at him, I'm going to get my stuff in, not hurt him for one, and not take advantage of too much that, as a heel, I'm not going to eat him alive. I'm gonna take him down just enough that he can fight back up, just enough that he can fight back up, and just enough when he wins that he beats someone. Yeah. So it was a pleasure to work with Glacier the couple of times I did, man. And behind the scenes, a good dude too, like I said.
Yeah. Now, if I remember right, watching him, because they did a long build up with him to bring him in. Mm-hmm. But if I remember right, he looked like a fairly good martial artist. He was a pretty graceful mover, if I remember right.
Yes.
I just guessing, and I haven't seen it in 20 years. I'm guessing he's probably a Taekwondo guy, but I don't know for sure. But his kicks were like perfect. Like, yeah, 100%.
Good kicker, good striker. Everything was right on. He didn't have to pull a whole lot. You could feed right into it. Had a really good body too, really well kept. He was, very solid, yet very flexible. Very good athlete. Very good athlete. I think he played football at Valdosta State, if I'm not mistaken, college football.
Now let me ask.
But he was good
because you were around at this point. What were you thinking as far as these like video game gimmicks that they were real? They put a lot of fucking time and money into developing this concept. What were your thoughts? What was did you even think about it?
I didn't even think about it, quite honestly.
Yeah, I
really didn't. I was like, it's a character, and it's his gimmick, and we're working. And like I said, for him, it's a lot of respect there because I saw how he carried himself, backstage. Saw how he treated other guys that were either put him over or when he had to put someone over. And so a couple of times I got to work with him, it was just truly professional. And I didn't think about the Mortal Kombat or I just characters or anything like that. I just thought hey, it's a good gimmick, and I'm putting him over, and we're gonna have a hell of a good match.
Okay.
So,
well, that's fair.
Yeah.
That was, it was a cool gimmick. There was a lot of money put into it. It was a solid look. It was cartoony as fuck.
Yeah. When a frost came down and they had the lasers and, it was a thrill to be in there, Yeah. And like I said, fortunately for that character, he was a really good guy too. So, that adds to it for me. When you got for them to put some money into it and give someone a push like that, I thought he was very deserving of it. So that's why I didn't really probably think too much about it, Jeremy. To be honest with you, like, okay, this is just his character, it's the Glacier. He's here to work. You know?
Well, I'm going to go on to number 6, and this is one of those ones that just breaks my little heart every time I think about it.
Yeah,
Arachnaman.
Yeah, man. Brad Armstrong, every time he started to get a push, something would happen, man, Now, here's the thing. As you wrote, badly done imitation of Spider-Man. The thing is, Brad could do everything in a ring, and they stuck that gimmick on him. And next thing you know, they're going to threaten the lawsuits because of Spider-Man. Brad can move, man, and he's doing it. And why couldn't they just come up with another masked character? He was Bad Street. He was Lacquer Man. I mean, what, you know what I'm saying? Why couldn't they just gave that guy? You know, we've talked about how funny and quick-witted and the way he was off camera. But in the ring, what a phenomenal performer, you know, and good body and all that. I wish they could have come up with a character that wasn't going to be sued for being such a, cheap imitation or a badly done one, as you said, a Spider-Man, you know. So it could have been copyrighted by WCW and said, hey, man, we got this cat down here. It's hot, and his name's Brad Armstrong, but we're going to put him under a mask and a hood, and we've got this great character development, kind of like you said with the Glacier. They put the money into it and the push into it, you know, based off the Mortal Kombat. Okay, we got something based off Spider-Man, but I mean, I don't know, man. I get hot about it because I wish Brad would have just kept getting pushed to the moon no matter what gimmick he was doing, you know.
And I remember back to the NWA days, he was their junior heavyweight champion forever. And still, it just kind of, we just needed a place. Basically, they used him as a coat hanger for the belt. It was just like, here, Brad, hold this for a while, would you? And then he's Arachnoman, which, let's just talk about this for a second. Purple and yellow, Bobby. They put him in purple and yellow. These are two colors that do not go together. And he'd come out, and he'd get on the corner post, and he'd spray fucking silly string. I mean, you know, did Jim Hurt ever meet a little fucking kid in his life? I mean, did he just not understand what kind of shit they'd be into? I don't know.
I don't either.
They could have gone with any acrobatic name or anything they wanted to. They could have put him in blue and red and under a hood. It would have looked more like Spider-Man. It would have acted more like Spider-Man. Just give it a completely different name.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
But Brad was there to do his job, and he did it.
Well, that's the thing.
And collect his check, you know.
You cannot say he ever had a, you know, even with a mouthful of shit, he never said it, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right. Now, this next one.
Yes.
Tell us a little about this next one. What are we moving into? We into this number 5. Where are we at? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Number 5. How about this? Before we go to number 5, let's get a book plug in.
Oh, yeah. Let's sell some books.
Let's do that. Okay. So, hey, thanks again for tuning in to the Bell to Bell podcast with Bobby Blaze and my co-host, Jeremy the Professor Vilmur. Now, look here, folks. If you want to help support this show a little bit, here's how you can do it. I got a couple professional wrestling books or books that they're more about life than just pro wrestling even. But my first book is called Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Boost Will Travel. If you go to tinyurl.com/blazebook1, this program gets a little bit of kickback if you purchase one of the books. I appreciate it. Jeremy appreciates it with his Amazon affiliate account. It's not a lot of money for either one of us, but it does help support this show, and we appreciate it very much. My second book, called I Kicked That on Two, The Educational Wrestler, just go to tinyurl.com/blazebook2. It'll take you right to the link on Amazon. You don't pay anything extra, anything like that at all. But the show gets a little bit of kickback. I get a smile on my face. Jeremy gets a, hey, way to go, Bobby. You know, we sold a book, we sold a product, and we keep the podcast alive. Mm-hmm. So do us a favor. Go over there to Amazon. Go to tinyurl.com/blazebook1 for Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Boost Will Travel, or tinyurl.com/blazebook2 for I Kicked Out on Two, The Educational Wrestler. And appreciate it very much, and I appreciate you letting me get that plug in before we continue with our top 10 pop culture-based wrestling gimmicks.
Yes. So please go buy a book. You can find it through our website, which we probably should be plugging more. Bell2Bellblaze.com. We do have a store section where Bobby's books are linked in there. I still need to get up your book under a pseudonym in there, so I got to remember to do that today. But yeah, go check us out. Check out Bobby's books if you haven't done so yet. And we would appreciate it quite a bit. We try to put out a good show. We do it for free. We just need some help moving some books, folks.
Yep. And also, while you're thinking about it, go check out the website. Mentioning that, if you're a blogger or a writer and looking to maybe get a little noticed, and you know something about professional wrestling because you're listening to an old school professional wrestling podcast, hit us up over there on I'm drawing a blank. I was getting ready to do Twitter because I'm always giving Twitter out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Bobby Blaze, 744, the professor at the Geekish Cast or the Bell to Bell Blaze podcast. But on the Bell to Bell website, we're looking for some bloggers and writers that may get some stuff put out there for it. I'm not saying it's going to pay right away, but it's possible to get your some work experience, work exposed. If you know a little bit about, or a whole lot, hopefully, about professional wrestling. The professor and myself, we're looking for some bloggers and stuff that we can post some of your professional wrestling writings and views. Just some filler spaces. How am I saying? Am I saying that correctly, Jeremy?
Yeah, basically, we'll need some written content for the website just to help fill it out, but also, having another party who is interested in wrestling who can go and write articles may actually help us come up with topics we haven't thought of. But it also helps us out on search engines. So we are looking for somebody. We do plan to pay. We don't know how much we can do, but that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for clearing that up. I stumbled on my words a little bit.
I got you.
Because what I was going to say, and I don't know if this can ever be done, we're basically looking for another Tex Johnson that done our YouTubes. Yeah. Rest in peace, Tex. But if we ever get another person that could do the YouTube stuff, that'd be great too. But right now we're concentrating on this blog post, like you said, and if we could just get someone to step forward and say, hey, man, I'm a fan of the show, and how can I contribute? That's kind of how we got some of these T-shirts started. A couple fans stepped up and said, hey, here's a way to maybe, make a little dime on the side or what have you. So we're just trying to do something to keep this program going because we do take the time to put a little bit of research in this while having fun, but we also love what we're doing, or hell, we wouldn't have ever started back,
Exactly, yeah.
So it's just... thanks for tuning in. That's all that. Let's go back into our top 10.
All right. So we're going to go to number 5.
Yeah.
And this is going to be Papa Shango.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have this down as Live and Let Die, but Baron Samedi is a actual voodoo Loa that exists. I mean, he is something that exists outside of the film universes. This is a real voodoo spirit or god, or I don't know enough about voodoo to really cover that. But he was a villain also in a Bond film called Live and Let Die, which has a kick-ass theme song.
Yep.
B, Christopher Lee plays the main villain, and Christopher Lee is fantastic in everything he's ever done.
Yep.
C, Jane Seymour is smoking fucking hot in this movie.
Amen, yeah.
And lastly, we also get the Papa Shango character based off of Baron Samedi. Papa Shango goes into the books as being the second worst gimmick, according to most people, that the WWF ever did. You know what the first one is, Bobby?
No, I was going to ask you.
Gobbledygooker.
Oh, man, I should have guessed that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess Pat Patterson is the guy who created this idea, and he's also the guy who killed it.
Okay.
I guess, it was just it was probably more racist than they intended. It was probably kind of hateful towards Asian people, quite honestly. But we got the Godfather out of that deal when it was done. But, it was kind of a cool looking character at the same time. So, I got mixed feelings about it,
Yeah. I think just some of the, making the warrior throw up and that kind of stuff was, that was too much, a little bit too far for me, like iffy. And I know it's voodoo-ish or whatever. I'm more of a, hands-on, let's see action, wrestling fight kind of thing, not just mind control or put them under a spell or hypnotics or what have you, you know. That's the only thing. But I don't know. I'm thinking about Jane Seymour. Sorry.
Yeah, boy, howdy.
Oh, man. I can see Patterson. So he's had all these successful ones, but only two. That's really I don't even know what would be third, but I'm sure there's another one in there. But Okay. I don't know. He's next. This next one, let's go to it. How about that? Because we talked about this one earlier. Which way we liked it. We found out a little bit about what happened to it, and that was Waylon Mercy and also Bray Wyatt doing Max Cady from Cape Fear. And Robert De Niro is my favorite actor, has been for years. And he's sitting in there and he's smoking that cigar in the movie theater and just laughing. And then he's back and go, counselor. I just love that character, man.
Yeah.
And of course, I watched the original, I think it's from 1962, Cape Fear with Robert Mitchum in it, man. But of course, with the second one, Juliette Lewis, a young, innocent Juliette Lewis, coming to school early to, I guess what's supposed to be an audition for a play, and Robert De Niro sitting there and, she's sucking her thumb, and, hey, man, you just got to go with that, 'cause right there, that's pretty damn hot. And Jessica Lange don't look too damn bad either.
Yeah.
But let's stay on track here, Bobby. Waylon Mercy, let's go with him first.
Yes.
That was Big Dan Spivey. Big, good look to him. The tattoos were kind of iffy on that, I think, was part of it. And it was very short-lived. You want to tell us a little bit about that? Because we looked this up, actually. It was actually shorter-lived than what we both thought it was.
Yeah, it looks like it was like barely a year, maybe a handful of TV appearances and 1 or 2 pay-per-view appearances, and that was it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think actually Dan Spivey, I'm not going to compare them too much because Bray Wyatt takes it in a different direction once he's
right.
But Dan Spivey would come out to the ring and he'd shake hands with the audience, thank them for coming out to see him wrestle.
Yeah.
He'd get in the ring and he'd shake hands with the referee and then his opponent, and then the bell would ring.
Yeah.
And he would fucking turn just like that and just fucking bloodthirsty lunatic. And then he'd win. And the bell would ring and he'd shake hands with the referee, go out and thank the audience. It was a great way to carry that character over. And then, just his general demeanor and his promos.
Yeah.
He had really nailed the character down. Obviously the outfits were very much the same.
Right.
Genteel Southern gentleman until the bell rings. But Dan Spivey apparently got injured in the course of developing this character. And as quick as he showed up, he was gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think at that point in his career, too, I think his knees were pretty much shot from all the stuff he'd been over in Japan.
Yeah.
So it may have been more of an long-term injury that had been building over time. I don't know exactly what happened during that time, but I'm sure the wear and tear had I just caught up with him maybe at that point, and also maybe more serious injury than what I'm thinking about. But so Bray Wyatt, you say, comes in and you revealed this to me. What about it?
Well, so Bray Wyatt, and I don't want to take all the time to unravel the family.
Right.
Linking together here. Bray Wyatt, and now let's see here. Spivey's his uncle.
I think that's what you told me.
Yeah, I think that's correct. But but either way, Dan Spivey gives Bray Wyatt the character, to build off of based on his Waylon Mercy, which is what became the Bray Wyatt character before it became like the Fiend and everything else went along with it. But they kind of had a second bite at the apple, so to speak, to develop a character based on Max Cady. Yeah.
And I thought it went pretty good.
Yeah.
That was one of the highlights of the show during the last few years there until things went a different way. As they always do, they'll fuck something up,
Oh, yeah.
Give them enough rope up there and they'll hang themselves or whatever. I don't mean that towards just any one direction or one person. I'm just saying that whole Wyatt family was getting over very good.
Yeah.
It was getting over very good.
Well,
and I know things happen personally and professionally too, take that in consideration. But I thought he'd done a very good job of that with the lantern and the shirts. The shirts were over the top, but you caught the references. Yeah. And at least the tattoos were real, that direction. I liked that during that time. And the way he would get up and the creepy thing where he'd get up and do a back bridge, like a spider walk for a guy of that size doing, I thought that's pretty impressive too. so crazy. Like, if you could have mixed those two up just a little bit more, it was over. It was definitely over.
Absolutely. It's one of those situations where, you hear Jim Cornette all the time talk about how, when somebody's got to go away. If you don't go away, people get tired of you, get sick of you or whatever. And it always makes me think of that line in The Dark Knight where Harvey Dent says, you either die a hero or you live long enough to become a villain.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of thing. Like, if you don't take a break, either creative's going to fuck something up, you're going to fuck something up, or the audience is just going to stop caring.
Yeah. Yeah, corny saying is, if you don't go away, how am I going to miss you?
Exactly.
So, and sometimes we've seen it time and time again. Not a specific instance or person comes to mind, but where someone stays there for quite a long time and they just change the gimmick and it's different name, same person. You're like, okay, how many times can I recycle this guy? Or girl, and you're like, that ship sailed already. They missed it. They missed the boat, So, anyway.
That's the thing. It's, you got to do something with them, shit or get off the pot, man. And if creative runs out. Right. See, this was the bad side of having only one company. You run out of stuff to do. You can't go somewhere else, like Jim Ross used to say, learn a new hold and come back.
Yeah.
We're kind of seeing what happens there when you just spin your wheels all day. But that being said, that Max Cady was a hell of a character to base a character off of. Right. It really was something. It was, I don't know if, maybe the Waylon Mercy character, bad timing, just not being developed in the right direction, because like when Bray Wyatt did it, he took it in a whole other way. Like he went straight up fucking swamp hillbilly fucking murderer on it.
Yeah. All right, man. All right, we're into our top three.
Yep.
And you put this in as number 3, and you kind of smartened me up a little bit about this in Japan. I wasn't real sure about. Now, I will say this. Kenny Omega is a very, very talented athlete. I don't like some of the stuff he does, but I'm not shitting on the guy. I don't know him personally, but I think he's a hell of an athlete and a good wrestler. And I had seen some of his stuff in Japan, during several years back, the Wrestle Kingdom. They have each year. I'd watched that. I knew the name, but I did not know the backstory. And the reference here is, you're telling me, and it's one of my all-time favorite movies. I'm not even saying it's in my top 10, but it's up there in my movie, The Terminator from 1984.
Yes.
I did not know this. Smarten me up, please.
So Kenny Omega,
in our audience.
Yeah, Kenny Omega, when he was being put into the Bullet Club, they were like, he's too bubbly. He needs to come up with something else. So he adopted the name The Cleaner, which, I'm sure everybody knows the mob references / movie references, the Tarantino references to The Cleaner. But he started adapting parts of the Terminator character from, the original Terminator. The leather jacket, he'd come to the ring with like a fake rifle sometimes. They'd do like a laser eye effect on one eye. But what I didn't know about it, because my brother watched a lot more Japanese wrestling than I ever did, but Kenny Omega would actually beat the Terminator theme song into the ring when like he's like firing back up. He'd use his hands to like slap the theme song into the ring as he was like kicking back on. Also, when finishing moves, occasionally like in a 6-man tag with like those two dipshits that overuse super kicks. You know who I'm talking about.
I'm drawing a blank, yeah.
Yeah, but
because give me one or two and I'm selling it. Fuck 47 of you.
Exactly. But they would do the Terminator theme song on the ring while he was like doing his finisher. So I didn't realize how much like effect wise and just little pieces that he used. And I thought it was kind of a cool gimmick. And then all of a sudden that thing where he cuts does the thumb across the throat and then points his finger like he's shooting a gun at his enemy. And now all this shit makes more sense to me.
Gotcha.
He's the Terminator. He's fucking doing you in,
Okay.
And so I put that in there also because I was having trouble coming up with a 10th. So
okay, that's fine.
yeah. So
we'll put it in there, man, because people, we know people, we're not shitting on any products out there, any people out there, like our agreement was very early on in our podcast. So I'm smartened up to it, man.
Yeah.
Also, when you take your thumb and go across your neck like he's through, my main man Arn Anderson done that more than once, I'll have you know.
Yes,
he may not have pointed a finger like the gun, but if Arn put the thumb to the throat, you pretty much know your shit's chilled. You're done. Yeah. It's going to be a spine buster. It's going to be a DDT, but one way or the other, AA is coming out the winner, And with that said,
that was that at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, the enforcer.
That was that. So we got a Terminator reference in there. Now, here's another one we're going to get in here on this next one. Mad Max movies out there. A couple characters come out of here that basically changed the face of wrestling, the way it's perceived. It wasn't bodies and strength and the way things were done changed. And who were those two guys that was based off of Mad Max?
Well, that is going to be Hawk and Animal, who adopted the look of a character.
Oh, what a rush.
Yep.
Yeah.
They took the look of a character named Wes from the second Road Warrior, or the second Mad Max movie, The Road Warrior, and adapted their characters from that. He was the guy with the mohawk and the makeup and the just fucking lunatic. And they, that was the thing, man. It's now you got a great name for those guys. Also, you got to kind of just throw this out there that originally they were part of a stable with Jake the Snake and a few other people that was called the Legion of Doom. And the Legion of Doom was, of course, the bad guys on the Super Friends cartoon. So we got a 2-for-1 here. But the Road Warrior character, the Road Warriors, their look and their style was based very much off of this berserker biker character from the Road Warrior.
Yeah. Now, as discussed prior to recording, we was only going to take one character, and of course we know Lord Humongous, that character kind of came out of the Road Warrior series as well, but we just throwing it out there, it's not in the top 10, but we're putting Road Warriors as number 2.
Yes,
that was our agreement, right?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, like we do so many times, 1 and 2, you could flip them and I'd be okay, Yeah. But Road Warriors come in at number 2, and that leaves with only one left. Like you said, Legion of Doom up there, 2-for-1. I think you're going to get another 2-for-1 down here. I'm not really sure, but I'm just kind of peeking ahead. Why don't you bring us to number 1? Because I know this person is one of your all-time favorites, if not your favorite. I know you've seen him at a trade show. Yep.
I don't know if I know you had the NWA belt with you. But,
no, I did not.
I think the line was very, very long.
No, the NWA belt was at my house where it belongs.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, gotcha. That's right. You don't wear yours across your shoulder at trade shows expecting to get fucking challenged or beat.
No, the last thing I need is Tim Storm showing up and stomping my ass,
Gotcha.
Yeah. But no, this one is going to be Sting specifically first off as his Crow-based character. But also, and this one I'm just throwing in there as like an aside because I don't think anybody was watching wrestling at this time or watching TNA wrestling. He also did a Joker gimmick for a while that I was not aware of until recently.
Yeah. I knew that for some reason, and I was like, okay, that's direct copycat off of Batman. That is the damn Joker. Yes. I mean, it's that evident, But now the Crow character, he was, when I was in WCW, Sting was out of an injury for a large part of that. And he was coming back right towards the end of my contract. So he was making appearances at the shows, I should say. And he was still coming down, out of the rafters. He was showing up, Then, sadly, the Owen Hart situation took place. And the best of my knowledge, because I had to work the very next night after that, or, we had TV tapings or what have you. Shortly thereafter, if I'm not mistaken, the programming went to they would just shine a light. In fact, I saw Sting with Darby Allin on that when
CM Punk
PM with the CM Punk deal. Yeah. So I think what was happening when I was finishing up, and I'm not sure exactly how what direction Sting went at that, because the company wasn't around much longer after. That's my point. Yeah. But I think what they was doing is kind of what they did on AE the other day, was they was just shining a light that Sting was in the building and he's up in the rafters,
Yeah.
And I don't think he descended from him via the cord very often, if any much, after that accident. Yeah. So anyway, but that's over though. That gimmick was over.
So, for me, Sting, I first saw him when he was part of Eddie Gilbert's group.
Mm-hmm.
And, they'd bill him as the man, from every man's nightmares. And then, Eddie was from every woman's dreams. And Sting's makeup always had like a look, I don't know, maybe like occult symbols or just something that was like off-putting to it, right?
Yeah.
And then he gets over to WCW after the UWF shuts up, and he gets picked to be the big baby face. And I think Flair picked him.
Yeah, yes.
And all of a sudden he goes from that more like sinister look to fucking bright pinks and purples, fucking
Surfer.
Yeah, Surfer Sting, as he's called.
Yeah.
And then like we start getting into the late 90s, and that look just doesn't hold up. I mean, it's dated as fuck.
Right.
And he's injured. He disappears for a while. Like 1 week he shows up, and while his makeup is still in the shape of his Surfer Sting, it's got the teardrops like the Crow makeup. And of course the Crow was based on a comic book, but while they were filming the movie, Brandon Lee was killed while playing the lead role.
Yes.
And I think that's probably why it became part of the American zeitgeist. It was just like, we all grew up watching Bruce Lee movies, and we were kind of waiting to see what Brandon Lee was going to bring us as he got into, hopefully stardom.
Yeah.
And then he was snuffed out. But they start turning Sting slowly, and they took a long time to do it.
Yeah.
They started, they let his hair grow out, let the bleach blonde bits go. They start playing with the makeup, where it first started off very much like the Crow. Then they turned it into a frown instead of a smile, and they started playing with it and doing different things. But for a year and a half, however fucking long that was, we were just waiting for him to come back and put the fucking boots to Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
I mean, we were losing our minds. And then, of course, they fucking shit the bed with that. Yeah.
That's the way it happens. But, all right, so number one Sting. Anyway, top 10 pop culture-based wrestling gimmicks off TV. The movie, we had number 10, Jason the Terrible, Kane, Razor Ramon, Glacier, Arachne Man, Papa Shango, Waylon Mercy, Kenny Omega as Terminator, the Road Warriors from the Mad Max movies, and number one, as just spoken. 2-for-1 bonus answers was the Crow and the Joker, Steve Borden, Sting. So, yeah, there we go.
Right after I had my heart attack, Adam, who was a brand new listener to us, who we didn't really know yet, sent me an autographed poster of Sting.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was,
well, I knew you had something on autograph, but I thought there was something when you went to his line or something that's too long.
Oh, no. Me and my brother actually got to stand there and bullshit with him.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So I knew there was something you had told me something about you. I couldn't remember if you visited him at the trade show or what it was, but I couldn't remember.
We got a picture taken with him. We got, I got a couple things signed by him.
Okay, cool.
We stood there and talked to him about the UWF. He's like, I didn't figure you guys would have seen that. And then he told us that he had actually wrestled at the Olympic back in the day. And I was like, I never would have thought that,
Right. Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that worked out that way, but no, he's a hell of a nice guy. And fuck, he's 115 years old and he looks great. So, I'm glad to see that he's getting some work through AEW. They seem to be using him right. And hey, they didn't let one of their young snot-nosed shitheads fucking injure him in the first 2 weeks.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. So, anyway, any closing remarks before we get off of here?
I was surprised, Bobby. I was sure I would be able to find it, and I didn't. That nobody ever did the Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, no, I am your father, as far as I could find. I thought for sure some fucking, shithole fed somewhere would have done that in the 80s. Could not find it. I also could not make Vader an actual ripoff of Darth Vader, so I couldn't use him.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, even though the name was there, and he wore a mask, his gimmick was not very Darth Vader-y.
Right. Gotcha.
So
you couldn't tie in your Star Wars reference anywhere, could you?
No, I couldn't really get a Star Wars reference in here. Hopefully somebody out there knows one and can hit us up on Twitter or something and tell us about it, because I'm stunned that there's not one.
Okay, so if you're out there, hit us up on Twitter. I'm at BobbyBlaze744. I do interact on Twitter quite a bit, and I enjoy that format for my social media. Jeremy is at the Geekish Cast. Also, you can go to the Bell to Bell Blaze podcast, or Bell to Bell Blaze on Twitter as well. That's a joint account. Jeremy also getting a very popular response on the Bell to Bell Blaze on the Facebook page. So give us a follow over there as well. Appreciate you listening. I don't have anything really to say this week other than, man, I'm just glad we're getting our fan base back up, man, and we've got some good topics. I know we still got we've done 2 weeks of top 10s. If you got any top 10 ideas that we haven't already done, send them to us. We may revisit an old one even. I know we have an author coming up. We don't know when. I know we're going to do a year in coming up pretty soon. We're going to choose a year and go back and revisit that year in professional wrestling. And I know we're looking at our second class of the 100% legitimate Bobby Blaze, Jeremy Vilmur Hall of Fame class. That we have a wrestler and a heel, maybe a couple other little deals there that we're working on as well. So we got some upcoming episodes that we hope you tune into also in the near future. Yeah. So thanks again for tuning in, wrestling fans.
I'm pushing for 1966 as the year we cover. I don't know how much we can find though.
Yeah, we've talked about that, I think, because of the pop culture and TV references. Yeah, the Monkeys and Batman and
Star Trek and
I think that's why we're coming up with that. Yeah.
It's like
and maybe we change it. Maybe we do that. We've talked about that before. Yeah. I don't know if we lose some more wrestling fans, but our pop culture fans, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, 66th in wrestling, so maybe it'll be our year. We'll look at it, see if we can find some stuff.
Absolutely. I believe Lindsey Buckingham is supposed to be coming on the show here pretty soon.
What the fuck?
Well,
oh, man.
I think, Bobby, we're done for the week. I'm getting a little goofy over here.
Yeah. It's about beer 30 here.
It is. All right. Well, everybody, for the, I am 100% certain, irreplaceable, unfindable of another Latex Johnson, myself, Professor Jeremy Vilmur, and the only Triple Crown Smoky Mountain Wrestling Champion, Arn Anderson's favorite enhancement talent by the t-shirt, Double B, Bobby Blaze. Bye-bye, everybody.